Yes, you see the video title, so you know what that means. 32 individual NFL team previews ahead of the 2023 NFL regular season are underway. You're going to see them all over the next week or so. Yeah! But, as per yearly tradition, I start with my heart, as you know you want me to do, and I start with Bears football! And in order to look at the Bears in 2023, it's important to take a look back at 2022, as much as many of you may not want to, although the result wasn't the worst in some cases. This was not a good team last year. No matter how much some of the fan base on social media tried to pump them up before the season, they were not a good team. I think I picked them like win 6, maybe 7 games, and was like, even felt icky about that. But I'm like, let me try and be a little positive. Don't be positive. Be realistic. The Bears went 3-14. The one major positive there, right, is that they ended up with the number 1 overall pick in the draft. That was sizable. That was significant in terms of its importance to the organization. You could tell as the season went along, they started 2-1. You had people talking about playoffs with this team, which was just delusional and dumb, which is typical for the Bears fan base. But as the season went along, you could tell they weren't good. And then they started trading off pieces. They trade off Roquan Smith. They trade off Robert Quinn. And you're like, yes, the tank is on! And it was. And they got it done. Even within that, though, you say this team still had 7 games that they lost by 8 points or less. Justin Fields had a damn near historic season running the ball, which is probably not the most ideal thing for the quarterback position, but it is what it is. So a team coming out of 2022 with the number 1 overall pick in the draft, the most cap space in the league. Bears fans would be remiss if they weren't really eagerly anticipating the offseason and potentially very excited about what could come here for 2023. And then you look at what the Bears did, general manager Ryan Poles, in free agency. And a little underwhelmed is how I would put it. No, I didn't want him to go on a spending spree of bonanza of just signing every player under the damn sun, because that's not a good idea. They certainly addressed some needs. I thought DeMarcus Walker was a fine signing. Nate Davis, same thing. Late, right in the middle of training camp, they signed Yannick Ngakoue, who was somebody I wanted him to sign months ago. But they invested a ton of money in linebacker with Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. I know Bears fans are excited about that because they're used to great linebacker play. But the reality is, you look at the 2 teams that made the Super Bowl this past year, in the Chiefs and the Eagles, and they didn't invest shit in the linebacker position. The Bears' salary cap spending and percentage of the salary cap invested in the linebacking core in those 2 guys in 2023 is going to be greater than the Eagles and Chiefs combined for 2022. Feels like a somewhat questionable way to build a roster, in my opinion, but we'll see how it plays out. But you can see the approach from Ryan Poles is, I'm going to plug holes here or there. I'm not looking to free agency to try and get a bunch of splash guys. I'm trying to fill spots, get a bunch of B and C level talent. You look at offense, guys like Deontay Foreman, Robert Tonyan. Those guys kind of fit that mold, right? They're guys that can contribute. They will improve your team depth, but they're not going to be overwhelming in terms of their impact. But the big thing for the Bears was going to be the NFL draft, right? And what they did with the number 1 overall pick. And then Ryan Poles did exactly what I wanted him to do, which was to make a big trade back. And in that big trade back, he moves back from 1 to 9 and is able to get a 2nd-round pick this year, 1st-round pick next year, 2nd-round pick the year after, gets DJ Moore as part of that. You needed a number 1 option for Justin Fields. Well, there you fucking go. And then you look at the way this draft played out for the Bears. Lots of swings at the plate, right? They passed on drafting Jalen Carter, thankfully. The best thing for Jalen Carter and the Bears was for Jalen Carter to go to the Eagles. They take Darnell Wright in round 1. So the offensive line was a huge weakness for the Bears. They addressed it a couple of times in the offseason. I wish they would have addressed it more. But getting Darnell Wright there, was really good. I love that pick. And another guys on offense, such as Roshan Johnson and Tyler Scott, certainly should be able to see some type of role in the offense in 2023. He invested heavily in the defense, especially early. All the day 2 picks were invested on the defense, and Tyreek Stevenson, Javon Dexter Sr., and Zach Pickens, 5th-round pick Terrell Smith. I understand this team had holes all over the place. I would have liked to have seen a little more focus on the offense, like John Michael Schmitz in round 2. Would have been really nice. Address the center position, but it is what it is. In general, though, it'd be hard to envision the Bears didn't get several starters out of this year's draft. Now, just because you get a bunch of starters out of the draft doesn't mean they're great. It just means that they at least got the job done and they got several future starters. In terms of this roster, and as I see it right now, some of the key strength areas, first is going to be the running game. Like, it wouldn't be Bears football if we didn't talk about the running game. And you know, with gutless Getsy as the offensive coordinator, put him up. I'm the offensive coordinator. It's 2023. Running game is paramount. I've got courage. 3rd and 6. I've got time. You know this team is going to be able to run the fucking football. It's Bears football. It's gutless Getsy. You've got Justin Fields. You've got Khalil Herbert. You've got Deontay Foreman. You've got Roschon Johnson. If the Bears aren't an elite running team this year, something tragically went wrong. Like, that's how much of an upset it would be if the Bears weren't a top 3 rushing team in the league this year, period. Defensively, I look at the back end of their defense, and I say the linebacking core, you bring in Tremaine Edmonds, you sign TJ Edwards. Edwards is a really good value pick. I thought Tremaine Edmonds is really worth it. But then you throw Sanborn in as the starting Sam, and that's a pretty good linebacking core. It better be for the amount of money they've invested in that position. But I anticipate that being a strength. And I look at the secondary, and they're pretty young, but I really like the damn upside. Like, at safety, you've got Eddie Jackson, Bareback Jackson himself. He ain't wrapping up shit. And then Jaquan Brisker. And really, all jokes aside, that's a pretty damn good safety tandem, and now Brisker's going to have a year of NFL experience under his belt. I expect bigger and better things for that safety tandem in 2023, hoping that they stay healthy because the depth behind them is... But then I look at the corners and I say Jalen Johnson is a very damn good cover corner on the outside, and he's in a contract year, so he should be highly motivated. Kyler Gordon in the slot, like the second half of the season, he started to play better. In the preseason, he flashed. Like, he showed some really good potential. You know, it will come down to Tyreek Stevenson and how he holds up on the outside, and it's probably going to be rough at times, and we're going to have to be comfortable with that because he's raw and he needs work. But the upside is certainly there. But overall, I like the secondary. I like the youth that they have. You know, it's such an important position group to get right, and I feel like the Bears are really heading in the right direction there. Meanwhile, when I look at some of the question marks about this roster, I look in the trenches on both sides of the ball. The defensive line. The interior is Justin Jones, Andrew Billings, and a couple of day 2 rookies. That doesn't inspire a ton of confidence this year for a team that was really bad at both stopping the run and getting after the quarterback. You look at the ends and you say Ngakoue and DeMarcus Walker are solid. They are. Not spectacular. The depth behind them is questionable. Frankly, I think it's kind of stupid that they waived both Trevis Gibson and Terrell Lewis. I thought that was pretty dumb, personally, to keep Dominique Robertson and then bring in the guy from the Colts and keep Rasheem Green, and what the fuck have any of them showed? Just saying. So I still have questions about how this team, with their front four, is going to be able to consistently get after the quarterback. It's a fair question. And then I look at the offensive line. There is upside at tackle with both Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, no question. And if both of those guys really pan out, then you've got your bookend tackles to protect your young quarterback for years to come. That's a great spot to be in. But how many games is Tevin Jenkins actually going to play? He's already been put on IR, so he's going to miss at least the first 4 games of the season. Like, we're going to call him Glass Jenkins at this point because he just can't fucking stay healthy. It sucks because he's really damn good when he plays. But if he never plays, what's the fucking point? Nate Davis seems like a head case. I don't know what the fuck was happening with him in the offseason, but he's here now. Hopefully he'll be an upgrade at right guard, you know. But what's going to happen at center, right? Like, same kind of flaws there. Is this team going to be able to stay healthy on the offensive line? It's a serious question. And then, you know, it goes beyond question Justin Fields. That is the biggest question. For the Bears fans that are sitting there and talking about Justin Fields is the guy, you absolutely have to believe that. Why the fuck would anybody absolutely have to believe that? You want to believe that, and that's okay. But to say you have to believe that is fucking insane. For those that are going to say, well, look how he played the second half of the year. Yeah, look at how he played the second half of the year. He was great with his feet, and he was way, way, way below elite as a goddamn pocket passer. It's crazy, yes, that it took gutless Getsy 7 weeks to figure out, hey, maybe I should customize my offense around the quarterback instead of pulling some Nagy shit, trying to make the quarterback fit my offense. But even when you look at it, Fields' completion percentage went up the second half of the year because they threw more short passes. He still only had one game in that last, 9-10 where he threw for over 200 yards. Come on. There are certainly questions about Justin Fields, and there should be. He's proven he's a dynamic, elite runner at the position. Now it's about what type of passer he can be. And if you are absolutely sold on him as a passer, you are being delusional right now because there are still questions about how he sees the field, some of the physical mistakes from an accuracy standpoint. You saw that a little bit in the preseason. Hope to God that he figures it out come regular season because it's very important for the Bears that he does. Looking at the schedule for the Bears, Bears fans are pointing to that Week 1 matchup against Green Bay, and there's no question, it's a big matchup for both the Bears and the Packers. It's a big one. But I look at other stretches in the schedule and see they're really important for the Bears too. Weeks 4 through 7. They host Denver, then they go to Washington, host Minnesota, host the Raiders. That's 3 or 4 games right there at home. If the Bears can beat Green Bay, maybe beat Tampa, lose to Kansas City, come into that Week 4 stretch 2-1, if you go 2-2 in that stretch, now you're talking about 4-3. If you go 3-1 in that stretch, you're talking about 5-2, 7 weeks into the season. You're not feeling bad about your spot, right? So I think that early season stretch is going to be pretty critical as a barometer, an indicator of what the Bears are going to do this year. And then I look at weeks 11 through 14. A bunch of divisional games, a couple of them on the road, back-to-back at Detroit, at Minnesota. And then after the bye, you got to go and host Detroit. If the Bears are in the mix at any point, or at that point in the season, they've got to handle their business in that stretch and at least go 2-1 if they want to be a playoff team. And I will confess here, full transparency, I've had a really hard time sizing up this Bears team this year and really feeling comfortable about any prediction I'm going to make. And I realize now why that is because the way this roster is constructed, so much of it is dependent upon the quarterback position, which is so unique and so rare for the Bears, right? That's not Bears football. It's always about defense and the running game. And as long as those two are high-notch, high-level, the Bears are going to win X number of games, and their quarterback is how much is the quarterback going to hold them back from going more? Well, this time, the way this team is structured, you don't have an elite defensive unit. You have an elite running game, yes, but you're putting a lot on the quarterback. And it's a new and unique feeling, and it feels kind of weird. And if I felt better about Justin Fields and his franchise quarterback ability, his ability to be available, to start every game, I might feel better about the season. The Bears are certainly going to be better, and I think markedly better in 2023. I do not think it's crazy if somebody says that this team can win the division. It is wide open. The NFC sucks. The NFC North is a fucking crapshoot at this point. The Bears could absolutely win this division. The Bears could also finish 3rd or 4th in this division just as easily. So as I look at them, I say I expect to see improvement. I wish my standards could be a little higher because what it should have been is trying to go from worst to first and going to the fucking Super Bowl. That's the name of the game. That's the fucking goal here. Progress my ass. But I think this Bears team is a 9 or 10 win team at its ceiling. And there could be the second best team in this division. I wish I could fully get behind them right now, but I just can't. I agree, they're going to be better. They're going to be quite a bit better than 2022, even though that's not really saying much. But for me to go out of my way to say hey man, Justin Fields is going to have an MVP caliber season and DJ Moore is going to be a stud. DJ Moore is going to be a stud. That's the one thing I feel confident about. But Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, Cole Kmet, how are they going to get enough targets for all of those guys? How are those guys going to do? I'm going on and on and on. There's legit reasons for me to hedge my bets a little bit with the Bears this year, and that's what I'm doing because I'm not fully bought in at this point. And I honestly feel like anybody that is sitting there and being a little disconnected from reality and allowing their Bears football bias to creep in.